Hey friends, welcome to the Stargazy Brief. Today's episode is for anyone who has ever sat in a war room, stared down a task order with a tight deadline, or wondered whether AI and how AI is reshaping the way proposals are currently won. US GovCon is moving faster than any other market right now. Pricing pressure, new small business values and rules, cyber requirements, AI-assisted evaluations. If you work in bids, I'm talking about the US, the UK, EU, Australia, Asia, or private sector, this momentum is coming for us next, which is why I brought in someone who is living every version of this industry right now. Arthur Runno has spent 20 years in federal proposals and built Turingon, and his team brings in years of real GovCon experience, and it shows. In this conversation, we cover the three big changes that we're seeing right now: how small businesses can capture the new wave of opportunity, how fixed price dominance is forcing teams to rethink price to win and competitive positioning, and how AI-driven evaluation is changing scoring even if you're outside of US GovCon. Procurement innovation starts in the US federal market, and then it is spreading outward at the moment. Arthur has a front row seat to all of it. So if you want to stay ahead and see what's coming in the proposal world, you can feel like a Cassandra, this is the episode to listen to. And if you want more conversations like this, make sure you subscribe so you never miss an update. Let's get into it. Oh, Arthur, you have a really strong background in proposal management, proposal writing, capture management for US federal GovCon and SLED. You have actually lived and breathed doing this for a huge portion of your career.
Yeah, ultimately, it was my entire career. I had 20 years in federal proposals. I served in the Navy for 10 and a half years and then fell backwards into government contracting after getting out. Ultimately, Turingon was born out of the search for AI tools for previous companies that I was involved with. And it was quickly evident to me that many of those platforms were not built by people who had spent time in a proposal war room. Turingon and eventually Proposal Pilot was born out of that. Our tagline is built by proposal managers for proposal managers. But we don't just say that, we live it. We have 65 years of combined proposal experience in our senior leadership.
And I think that's really useful because although you can provide a tool set that's useful for proposal and capture people, you can also provide them with the insight of what's going on right now in GovCon. It's not just about the tools and the features. It's also about the strategy behind it. And I do want to get into that a little bit because you've seen the FAR reforms and broader procurement overhaul that is being pushed forward at the moment. So from your vantage point, what do you think the real impacts for BD and proposal teams are right now, and what can they expect in the next, year, a couple of years?
Forms in FAR 19 wrote an article yesterday for LinkedIn specifically on this topic. And effectively, it's going to be a fundamental change in the way business is done. The first fundamental change is the elimination of small business subcontracting plans. So if you are not a large business and you were reliant on that for a portion of your business, what are the odds that a large prime or integrator is going to use a small business if they don't have to? They removed all reporting requirements to the Small Business Administration. There is no longer any set percentage requirement for socioeconomic designations. And speaking of socioeconomic designations, while those are retained, effectively the teeth behind them for enforcement of sole source contracts is going away. For example, 8A contracts, the rule used to be once 8A, always 8A. That is no longer the case. So that is the plus side. We're going to see billions of dollars worth of business that most companies who are not 8A have never seen before come out and compete. But I think this is really where AI can play a difference. The rule of two is still in effect for small business designations and set-asides. And to that effect, we're going to see many more RFIs. The companies that are able to capitalize on this and drive it where they need it to be are going to be able to capitalize. The second big difference is in best-in-class vehicles. We're getting away from agency, indefinite delivery, indefinite quantity contracts, and more towards best-in-class GWACs such as Oasis. CIOS before is going away. NASA SOUP most likely, although that is a little bit in flux with some of the funding behind NASA right now. But we're going to see vehicles of that sort where the bulk of the work is going to go to. So it's going to be that much more important for companies to get on these vehicles and to learn to capitalize on task orders.
This whole 8A rule that you're talking about, is there anything that small businesses specifically should be doing right now to adjust their teaming or their growth strategies? I mean, you mentioned AI, but what are there any specifics that you would suggest?
Process. I came up as in the small and medium business market. My first company was a small GovCon. When I joined, there was two people, one full-time equivalent on contract. We grew that to $60 million a year in 4 years. And we did that with a small, lean staff. I learned the importance of having process for responding to IDIQs, to task orders quickly, being able to capitalize on the opportunities as they emerge, and the value of teaming. Teaming is going to become that much more important, particularly in terms of competition with the largest, in terms of expanding capabilities, figuring out what your gaps are, taking a real honest assessment of what that looks like, so companies can really be able to capitalize it. If you're a prime on Oasis, my 2 cents is that AI has lowered the cost per bid so much that you should be bidding, if not every task order, nearly every task order. How do you do that? Get a large enough team, provide them with an 80 or 90% draft using AI, offer them a chance at work share if they are not on that vehicle. If they write the remaining 10 or 20%, you throw pricing on it and put it in. Simply because where we are, I believe I read a statistic saying Oasis averaged 3.4 bidders per task order. The odds are in the favor of those that bid more, and they stand to make a lot more money in the coming years.
So let me make sure that I'm understanding this correctly. Let's say I'm a small business, so I should be trying to make sure that my processes are really tight and I'm using AI intelligently when I am bidding. But if I am a prime, I should be bidding as often as possible on everything that
Correct.
comes in.
For
Yeah.
GWACs, for IDIQs, I wanted to provide that clarification. This does not discount the importance of capture. I am a huge believer in the importance of capture for those high stake opportunities. But what AI enables small and medium businesses to do, particularly those with lean teams, is not leave as many opportunities on the table. If there is an opportunity for which you are qualified, that ordinarily, because
Right.
of a high cost per bid, you might no bid. This enables you to put in something respectable. And given the odds in terms of the low bidders per task order, you have a very good chance of increasing your revenue.
Not answering everything, literally everything, just things you're good for, you might not have done
Correct.
before. There's been a huge push for more fixed price contracts, like from shifting risk to contractors specifically. So, how should proposal and capture teams rethink their pricing strategy and pursue decisions in this very specific environment?
Sure.
If you're saying that.
Yeah, I mean, 20 years in this industry, we kind of see the fluctuation back and forth. I started out during the heavy contracting for the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan when everything was cost plus fixed fee. We saw a pivot towards firm fixed price during the Obama administration. So, not my first rodeo in this regard. For some of those listening, it may be. Effectively, when you're living in a firm fixed price environment, I think the key is price to win, manage to profitability. You're going to have to put in a plan, look at what your base cost is using price to win fundamentals, and then mark it up no more than you think you need to come in as low as possible, and to look for efficiencies within your organization. Oftentimes, we've been conditioned to bid the 50th or the 75th percentile. What that means, in this the professional services market, there is still 50% of the recruitable market out there that is below where you are bidding. How do you get them? You're going to have to recruit more. You're going to have to increase efficiencies, increase your database of personnel, increase those relationships in order to be able to bring your costs down to be competitive in this environment.
Gosh, okay, so that's a lot of things that like fundamentally need to change just right now. I mean, how would you suggest people prioritize those changes to make sure they can start winning immediately, or is this going to be something that's going to take a little bit of time for people to figure out?
Change always takes time within an organization. However, whether you're bidding product or services, the key is look at your suppliers, look at those places where costs can be cut, get as lean as possible, in those areas where it makes sense to do so. I was working with one organization where we enjoyed 80% margin on every product we sold, sometimes over 100%. That is atypical in a firm fixed price environment because your competitor is probably getting that down to 40 or 30 or 20. So we just need to think smartly about what that's going to look like and what your competitor is going to do. Black hats become more important here in terms of really trying to look at the competitive environment and being realistic about it.
Yeah, it's so interesting. When like I mean 3 4 years ago, if we got a contract that was firm fixed price, we didn't even want to bid it. Like it wasn't even something we wanted to touch because but yeah, now it's becoming more normalized. It's just gonna be a different strategy that we have to work on. I'm with you, but I think I'm wondering if there's any way to use AI in this pricing environment. Like a lot of times you and I will talk about AI in terms of responding and compliance, but can it be used for this pricing to price intelligently?
It could be used for elements of pricing. Right now, I do not believe the technology is there, although we are in the process of building it. We have an upcoming product called Pricer Pilot that will automate that pricing element for you. In the interim, products that we have, such as Proposal Pilot or other products that are out on the market, and can do the price volume for you to allow you to really focus on the actual numbers, the part that's going to win or lose a bid for you. And additionally, beyond that, it can assist with market research, getting that substantiated data, because even in a firm fixed price environment, often you have a cost realism clause. So is this a realistic price? What are you basing it on? And that AI can certainly assist in helping you, particularly for small businesses that may not have access to enterprise level products for research, really gather that data so that they can bid intelligently.
I feel like pricing is one of the most stressful parts. Any help that you can get, especially if it's data backed, is incredibly useful. I'm also seeing that AI is being used for procurement and evaluation. So, do you see that changing how proposals are being scored or assessed? And if so, how that really needs to change how we write and structure our responses for any of those procurement changes?
Well, I mean, the old adage has always been that proposals were scored, not read. As a proposal manager for 20 years, I prided myself on good narratives. I kind of took that with a grain of salt. In an AI world, it is quite possible that we will soon see, the proposal that is written by AI and is scored by AI. So the
Yeah.
question is, what does the AI look for? Adherence to the evaluation criteria becomes that much more important when you're talking about something that's evaluated by a machine that is really looking at those basic elements. Did you substantiate each claim? Did you really meet both the proposal instructions and the evaluation criteria, as well as addressing everything within the statement of work? Those are fundamentals, but really going down the list in terms of compliance, it's one of the reasons within Proposal Pilot we built a compliance engine that automates that process, because we know that that's going to be happening, and it is happening already on the government side.
Yeah, I feel like this gonna be such a fundamental shift. I'm seeing this being done in US GovCon faster than anywhere else. So, like, I feel like for all of us who are not in US GovCon, the people who are listening to this, pay attention to what's going on in US GovCon because I think that is what will trickle down into everywhere else, probably EU and UK first, their public procurement first, and then enterprise. So I think we gotta be watching what you guys are doing and the best practices that you're coming out with, even if they're not in GovCon, because that way we can kind of get ahead of what's going to be going on in our different industries and sectors. So yeah, I'm I'm really watching you GovCon so
Absolutely.
close.
This is going to be a
Yeah.
global phenomenon. Obviously, the Trump administration, together with Elon Musk, has leaned forward in this area and is accelerating it. So we are sort of the guinea pigs in real time right now.
Yeah.
I
We
imagine there's
really
going to
are.
be a whole slew of things that haven't even been considered. There's going to be protests coming out of this. Did the AI hallucinate some capability that the contractor didn't really have, resulting in an incorrect award? How is it substantiated? What if the AI recommends one awardee and the contracting officer decides to go with another one? Who has primacy in that regard? But these issues are going to be worked out in real time, and it will not be long before this goes over to the EU, to the Asia Pacific market. We are going to see this, and we are going to see it quickly.
Yeah. Yeah. I very selfishly am just glad that we can kind of watch what's going on with you first. Then we can learn those like as proposal teams and capture teams, like learn from you
Sure.
guys and then hopefully get ahead of it as it's happening with us. But yeah, okay, so that was me like going on a I get really excited about this stuff because it's changing so fast. I think another huge change that I'm seeing is like with the AI FedRAMP modernization specifically, there are new cyber standards that are colliding with procurement. So how do you see these compliance shifts changing the way proposals are written, the way they're reviewed and evaluated? And do you think this is going to be a competitive advantage for specific people? I would just love your thoughts in general
In
around this.
US GovCon, at least, obviously, you have CMMC, you have FedRAMP. These are no longer something that's optional or down the road. It is here. It is something that must be complied with. Obviously, holding those certifications, whether your organization holds them, are going to become very important, as this is increasingly a requirement, particularly within the DoD, Department of Homeland Security, and other agencies that really are more concerned with cybersecurity elements of it. So it is something that we need to watch out for within the proposal teams. It is amazing how much sensitive data we have, both in terms of solicitations as well as partner data from past performance that needs to be secured. So if we're not paying attention to it, our adversaries certainly are, and the government certainly is watching, whatever government it is that you're bidding for. So it is something that you need to have a plan for.
Yeah, my understanding is that if you use a platform like an AI platform without any FedRAMP certification behind it, then you can get fined significantly for the reasons that you said. Is that
Let's
is that true?
well, Go ahead and distinguish between FedRAMP and CMMC. For example, using my own organization, we do not have FedRAMP. In fact, I am not aware of any AI company that is FedRAMP certified. FedRAMP is for products that the government is directly putting stuff on. However, right now, FedRAMP is they're prioritizing large primes, large contractors, of which your proposal AI company should not be a prime contractor for the government. If they are not necessarily your vendor, they are your competitor. So you want to be very careful where you put your data. What is important and is that they comply with FedRAMP standards. So, for example, with Turingon and Proposal Pilot, we are on Amazon Web Services GovCloud, which is a FedRAMP tool. We inherit the permissions from that. And we were built from the ground up with CMMC compliance in mind. So we can go down a list of 200 areas that vendors are going to ask to maintain their own CMMC compliance to ensure that everything is in order. We have all the documentation to back it up. And it is certainly a question that everyone needs to ask when they're evaluating vendors, because you don't want your data in an area that could potentially impact the entire organization.
Yeah, I think that's a really important, whether it's US or you're in public procurement outside of the US and you are looking at a bunch of different proposal tech software. And they're just one that usually works with, private sector, then you may not be following best practices.
It,
So it's worth paying attention to.
yeah, it certainly is, especially as you get to a lot of less expensive tools, so to speak. I've seen a lot of
Yeah.
ChatGPT wrappers out there that may be selling proposal AI for about $100 a month. I could tell you right now, looking at our bills, going over accounting for this past quarter, there is no way that for $100 a month anybody can do proposal AI on GovCloud.
No.
It is not possible. Certainly not fine-tuned AI like we do, on AWS GovCloud. The server cost alone would kill you. So at that point, you really need to take an assessment of whether this is something that you want to do. Will you get caught? Maybe, maybe not, probably not. But in the event there was an audit, in the US at least, it may be a violation of federal law in many cases.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's just gonna be best practice in general because if as somebody who used to sell AWS GovCloud, it is very expensive, but it is for a reason. Like it does keep your data incredibly safe and the data that you have from other companies incredibly safe.
You don't want to be the cautionary tale of the company
No.
that had a massive data breach on behalf of the US government, where their solicitations were leaked to an adversary. That's the wrong way to wind up on CNBC.
No. No, don't do it. Bad idea. I think the reason why I asked that though, Arthur, is because I do think that I'm seeing a lot of tools out there that are trying to solicit these proposal teams who have and they have no idea what they're talking about. Not the proposal teams, but the proposal tech software. And I'm just like, if you don't work in GovCon, just don't even try.
I think it comes
No
back to
way.
a fundamental issue, though. Again, kind of getting back to our origin story. I saw a lot of that. Is why I started turning on. A lot of these companies were started by very talented people, but they
Yeah.
came out of Silicon Valley. They never worked in government contracting, and they're learning as they go. And they don't really understand the nuances of what is important to our industry, both from a security standpoint as well as a review standpoint, as a compliance standpoint. It could be very little subtle things. Just at what point do you stop? Do you want a fully generated proposal? Yes or no, why or why not? Does this pose a risk? We, for example, stop effectively at a red team draft. We require human in the loop at that point, AI assisted, of course. But
Yeah.
why do we do this? Because I saw it as a major compliance risk. I didn't want to put our customers in a perspective where they felt like they could submit something that might contain errors, because everything should be reviewed, even something that comes out of a proposal manager who's been doing this for 10 or 15 years.
Yeah, absolutely. And we keep seeing problems go on out in companies that are just submitting without reviewing and fact
We
checking.
do. The
You don't want
temptation's
once
going to be
again.
there.
Yeah, but once again, you don't want to be that cautionary tale because it's really embarrassing.
It's really embarrassing, and it potentially results in criminal penalties or civil
Yeah.
penalties.
No, so many reasons. Just don't do it. Review your stuff. And I think that goes to the next thing I wanted to ask, which is there is a flood of AI powered tools out there, proposal tools specifically on the market. So what questions should BD and proposal teams be asking vendors before they buy or even shortlist them to make sure they're investing in a system that will actually help? If they are in GovCon specifically.
The first question I would ask is, can our team do a free trial, even if it's for only for a few days? Look at this with our data, look at it with the solicitation that we use, be able to compare. If they will not allow you to do that, if they will not allow you to play with the software, that should be a red flag. There is one major software vendor out there that I have heard repeatedly from clients will do a PowerPoint presentation for their demo. They don't even allow you to see the product until the second
Wow.
or third call. That
Oh,
very nice video from my understanding, but if that's the case, you have to ask yourself why. What exactly are they trying to hide from you? I'll play the old magician's trick of look at the right hand while the left hand is holding something else. Ultimately, a proposal tool should be able to stand on its feet. It You should be able to use it, play with it. I don't trust any tool that I can't get my hands on.
yeah, I feel like that's just how software works now. It's really strange if you can't get on a website and just try out a demo or a free trial.
Correct.
But it's weird that like proposal tech hasn't really caught up to that, but most tech does that.
A lot of companies were built, particularly a lot of the large integrators with Silicon Valley venture capital money. Nothing wrong with that. They have different motivations and they're built to maximize the number of users. So, did the money go into the tech or did it go into marketing and very slick demos and sales training? If it's
Yeah.
the latter, then you have to wonder about what you're getting. But it's like, please, 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 I tell everyone, you don't have to buy us, but do not buy anyone else without actually playing with the product. And that's just multiple products.
Oh,
Do a little mini bake off. Look at what's out there, see what works best for your team, because not every tool is going to be a fit for every organization.
no, I completely agree with you. So yeah, the top thing is have a play around with it, the real product, the real trial. But are there any specific questions? Like, so let's say I like the way it's working, I like the way I can use it within my team, but are there other questions I should be asking to make sure that it is GovCon ready?
Absolutely. We already talked about security in terms of where your data is stored. I would want to know if they are or plan to be bidding on government contracts. A lot of these companies are making the pivot to bid their AI tool, whether that be for acquisition. I don't know about you. I don't want the government or at least a contractor that may be bidding against me having access to my proposals. How are these things secured? What kind of support is provided? Does this require a lot of training? There are next generation tools such as Proposal Pilot that are pretty much startup and go. We do provide training as needed in terms of best practices, but you could pretty much use it out of the box. And there are tools that are extremely prompt heavy. On your own platform, Chris, on Stargazy, I think you have a sub forum for best prompts to use.
Yeah.
If you need to be thinking up prompts, is this software really helping you? Or is it something that's hindering you and taking up more of your time in terms of what you're doing with it? Have
Yeah.
they really thought out the process in terms of how this tool should best be used to help you to fit within your process? Or is there a new process that should be come up with in order to get the maximum use out of it? Another question a lot of people don't think about until they have it is the number of users. A lot of companies like to sell based on 5, 10, 15 users. What happens when you have teaming partners? Can they get in there? When you have subject matter expert number 63, are they able to access the tool or do I need to make a phone call? Because oftentimes making the phone call, getting everybody on the phone, being able to add that extra body, getting approval from procurement to be able to do so is a delay that a proposal manager cannot afford. So these are just some of the issues, that I see frequently that I think proposal managers should be asking themselves and capture managers as they evaluate these tools. Another one is really ultimately, I see a lot of tools that are trying to be all in one solutions that are integrated. We took a different approach. We have a proposal specific pilot product that aims to be best in class. We are going to shortly be releasing a capture specific product that is best in class. I'm weary of integrated tools for one reason. Who's deciding who it's best for? And the best tool for capture may not be the best tool for proposals or the best tool for contracting. And locking yourself in for a year or 2 years because someone else in some other department likes it can be a serious problem. And those are discussions that need to be had both with the vendor and internally. Can you piecemeal it? Can you buy only those portions that you need?
If someone is making that decision based on how well it works in a different portion of the business. So yeah, I had not thought about that before.
I mean, imagine trying to write a proposal in Excel because accounting likes it, right? It doesn't work
Yeah.
very well.
No, somebody's had to respond to a lot of RFPs in Excel. This may be a kind of controversial question. I actually have two controversial questions,
Please.
Arthur. So sorry. The culture of GovCon is changing. I think that's just obvious to most people. But obviously, there are recent rollbacks on DEI requirements and contracting. And that I see that affecting actually quite a few small businesses. And so, how do you see culture, workforce composition, and proposal messaging shifting because of those DEI messaging shifting? And should contractors be anticipating different kinds of evaluation criteria? Like, basically, what does it
I
mean? What are you saying?
I think contractors need to move with the winds of each administration. I saw a movie once, comedy based on car salesmen, but I think the quote that I remember was, "I'm a Christian man," or whatever religion predominates in the area in which I'm selling. So it is in GovCon.
Yeah.
If you want to sell product, you need to anticipate the shifts in policy, look at them ahead of an election, be prepared for both. I remember when we shifted from the Bush administration to the Obama administration, there was a huge focus from the Department of Homeland Security. It was still there, but the opportunities weren't as wide to health and human services, housing and urban development. Even there was increases in agriculture and interior spending. So anticipating where that's going to be and how to respond to your customers. As far as DEI goes, it's really a question in terms of the how you're going to integrate it and describe things. Things can be described in different terms that are more palatable to your audience. I think fundamentally, regardless of who's in power in the White House or on Capitol Hill here in DC, people have the same fundamental goals, and those are goals of fairness, of uplifting the general population and allowing opportunities for all. And it's really a question of messaging and staying away from partisan buzzwords. But I think that's generally a good practice. Even if you have a DEI heavy administration, you want to focus it more as neutral terms. Our organization focuses on diversity. I myself am a Hispanic American. We have three women co-founders, but we don't do it because of any DEI requirement. We do it because one, these are the best people for the job. Two, because looking at a wide, diverse population in terms of your hiring practices is the right thing to do. You're going to miss out on talent if you don't.
But from your perspective, what is the biggest blind spot you see in how BD and proposal teams when they're preparing for any of these changes, whether it's cultural, whether it's just the AI shifts, like anything like that, where do you think they are understanding or underestimating the scale and speed of all of these different shifts in the market?
I think humans in general are prone to normalcy bias. It's going to be this way because it's always been this way. And the teams that are going to win need to be agile. They need to be prepared to move. And that goes for both large, small, and medium organizations. They need to be able to pivot in terms of where the market's going. And that's true for any business, not just GovCon. Those that anticipate that things will remain the same because they have been so in recent memory are going to miss out on those opportunities because they risk becoming obsolescent within their present market.
Yeah, I very much agree with you. I see this, yeah, the cultural, the AI technology shifts, but also in just how people are buying. And I've seen some proposal people who they haven't changed in how they've done things in 10 years. And I feel like we should be auditing every 6 months everything that we're doing.
I completely agree with you. I recently wrote a quite controversial article saying that the Shipley process, thanks to AI, really needs to be looked at. I think I was a little bit stronger in my wording. I think I said the Shipley process is dead, by which I mean, don't mean
Yeah.
that reviews are dead, but I do mean that when you conduct those reviews, who conducts those reviews, at what stage within the proposal those are done is probably an obsolescent, if not obsolete model because of the speed of AI, how it is used and how it can increase bid throughput. That's just one example. But again, those who fail to innovate and fail to adapt are dooming themselves to extinction.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I thought the Shipley model was outdated 10 years ago. So I didn't follow it then. And I think that this goes along with something else that I feel like is affecting the GovCon community specifically. And I'm asking you this because I know that you've gone through this in the past. Obviously, right now the US is going through a shutdown, which of course is affecting the government contracting. And so what would your advice be to the people who are in this situation, who are a little bit worried? What should they be focusing on, paying attention to? Because I'm sure this isn't going to be the last shutdown that happens.
And it unfortunately never is. If there's one constant in Washington, after saying that things don't expect things to stay the same, it tends to be dysfunction at our
Yeah.
senior levels, and which inevitably results in shutdown. And maybe that was engineered as part of the process. But understanding that I'm not sure what number shutdown this is. I want to say 6 or 7 in my 20-year careers, and it might be more than that. Those are just the ones I remember. It's something that you need to prepare for. You need to be looking at the political headwinds. You need to be reading the news. You need to be anticipating it, certainly for C-level executives. What are you going to do with your people? Do you risk losing them if you don't pay them continuously? This is probably something that you need to factor for, allot funds for. As for individuals who are affected, this is the most unfortunate part because by law, federal employees who are furloughed get paid. Federal contractors do not unless their company opts to pay them out of the goodness of their heart. Unfortunately, that's not something that you can count on. So you need to make sure and be adequately prepared with savings, accounts. Look at expanding your skill set during this time when things are down. There are a bunch of free courses. LinkedIn, even major universities such as Harvard offer free courses on AI. Or whatever other topic that interested you. Take the opportunity to go to seminars, strengthen your resume. So in the event that furloughs do come or longer term layoffs, you are prepared for that next opportunity, for that next fight.
Yeah, I mean, candidly, Arthur, a lot of people on my LinkedIn feed who are proposal and capture for GovCon have been laid off recently. Maybe this is too harsh, but maybe like they should be moving into a different focus, maybe within GovCon. Like I'm wondering if there are different focuses within GovCon that are more likely to be resilient as opposed to others.
In my experience, proposals has been one of the more resilient areas,
Okay.
which is why I hesitate short of being at the senior executive level. I've never been laid off as a result of government shutdown, and I've been through every single one for the last 19 years. That was my experience. Obviously, it's a little bit different now. I think there's other pressures that are leading to shutdowns, certainly with contract cancellations. Um, and the use of AI, ironically. And this is really more of a question for senior executives and what the future of our profession is in terms of proposals. If my proposal manager or my proposal staff used to generate 5 proposals a month, and AI can enable somebody to do 10, and I had 2 proposal managers before, well, I can cut that in half and still do 5 or do 10. I would say, why not hire more and do 30 or 40 or 50? Put in more bids. But unfortunately, they're looking at proposals as the cost center and not as a revenue center. When those of us who have been in the industry, and I've been on both sides, both capture and proposals, one needs the other in order to have a healthy or BD organization. However, I have every expectation that as this resolves, as AI becomes more normalized and opportunities emerge, that we are going to see a dramatic rehiring of many of these folks, and maybe even an expansion of proposal ranks within the next 12 to 18 months.
Ooh, I hope you're right. I like that prediction, Arthur. If you are advising a capture manager or proposal lead today, like what's one skill or capability that you think they should invest in this year so they can just stay ahead of as many GovCon shifts as possible? And what would you bet on kind of like the highest ROI skill set that they could be focusing on? Hard questions.
I mean, obviously, I am biased as the CEO of an AI company, but I would bet heavily on AI. I would say, folks are either going to use the technology stack or they're going to serve the technology stack in the future. Understand how it works. Understand how it works at a fundamental level. Again, free courses on LinkedIn. Understand what the difference is between OpenAI, Anthropic, Claude, Google Genesis, or Meta's model like Llama. Really understand what the fundamental differences are because it's going to have an effect on your product. The better understanding you have of how AI works, the more you could utilize it in your day-to-day life to be more productive rather than just replacing work. It can increase your productivity, and it starts at the fundamental level. It's not something that's super intensive. You could probably take a couple of courses, learn this in 6 to 10 hours over the course of a few months, but it's something that's going to be fundamental to our future.
I agree. Obviously, that's why I have Stargazy is because I think it's so important, something we have to be focusing on as an industry. But Arthur, people who are listening to this, who are really interested in what you have to say, are interested in Turingon or using Proposal Pilot. And I know that you are also, having a bake off with GovDash, I think as well. So
That's correct. We're very excited about that. It is being sponsored by Orange Slices. I'm hosted by or judged by Summit Technologies, and this is going to be a first in class for any government contractor. Sean Doherty, the CEO of GovDash, actually put a challenge up. I'm not sure if he anticipated that anybody would respond. We did and accepted his challenge. It was open to anyone, and I think this is just so important to his credit that he did that because we're going to be putting both tools up with a real solicitation, real time to see if they can create something that is awardable with neutral arbiters. And that is something that too many AI companies are afraid to do. They're afraid to trust their technology in real time. So, I look forward to getting as many people on there as possible so they can see what Proposal Pilot can do, so that they can do a comparison with their present product or other products, and really see what the next generation of Proposal AI looks like.
Yeah, I'm really glad that you are actually putting it out there for people to see in real time. It is to me that just seems something we should all be doing, but I'm glad that you were actually doing it. And like I said, if people I'm gonna put a link to that bake off that you're gonna have in orange slices in the description. I think you're doing it with Summit.
Summit
Who are you doing?
Technologies,
Summit
yes.
Technology. So I'll put all the links to everything for that in there. But if people want to find you, learn more about your products, where can they find you?
They can absolutely find me on LinkedIn. I am pretty open. Feel free to connect with me, shoot me a message. Happy to talk. I've been, again, working in proposals for 20 years. I take phone calls at 2 a.m. because I'm crazy like that. It just became a habit after being in the war room for too long. So regardless of time zone, I'm always happy to talk to folks about the future of AI, about what's best for your company, whether it's our technology or another technology. I just want to see people using it. I believe this has the possibility to make life easier for proposal and capture professionals and really give you time back. So maybe you don't have to take those 2 a.m. phone calls and you can tuck your kids into bed at night more often.
Yeah, and I'm going to say go follow Arthur, go follow Turingon because you guys post amazing, amazing, useful articles that are not just copywriting, although that's fun. It really is incredibly useful bullet points. You're going to come away with notes. So go follow Arthur, go follow Turingon. And thank you so much, Arthur, for being on this call.
Thank you, Chris. It was my pleasure.
All right, folks, that's it for today's episode. If you're in proposals, capture, BD, inside GovCon, or anywhere AI and procurement are colliding, I hope this conversation gave you a clear view of where the industry is headed and how quickly it's moving and what you can do about it. Or if you want to go deeper into what Turingon and Proposal Pilot are building, or you want to follow Arthur's ongoing analysis of GovCon reforms, cybersecurity changes, and AI adoption, go connect with him on LinkedIn. He shares some of the most practical, grounded insights in the field for free. And you will find links to Arthur, Turingon, and the upcoming Proposal Pilot versus GovDash Bake Off in the show notes. And if you want more conversations like this, conversations to help you navigate the next era of proposal work, make sure you subscribe to the Stargazy Brief. And thank you for listening, and we will see you next time.